In 1989, Alain Prost clinched a world championship at the Japanese Grand Prix. 2 years later, again in Japan, he was fired. This season, following a year off, Prost has led the Formula One title chase since the opening round in South Africa, pushing the red and white McLaren of arch-rival Ayrton Senna into the background by taking 7 poles and 5 victories in the first 8 races. The last of those came at Manicourt in France, where native son Prost led a 1-2 sweep for the Anglo-French Williams-Renault team. His delirious fans and countrymen could not have known it would be Prost's last Grand Prix on home soil. In Portugal, Prost announced his retirement, then finished second to clinch his 4th World Championship. Today, Alain Prost returns for his last Japanese Grand Prix. In 1991, Ayrton Senna clinched his 3rd world title in Japan, driving a McLaren Honda in the carmaker's home circuit at Suzuka. But 1993 has been a disappointment by Senna's lofty standards. Like Prost, Senna has known the joy of winning his home Grand Prix in Sao Paulo, Brazil. But in the last 8 races, the proud Brazilian has finished no higher than 4th and failed to take the checkered flag 5 times. Today, Ayrton Senna returns to Japan. 1993 has given Grand Prix racing a new hero in Damon Hill. The son of world champion Graham Hill fought from the beginning of the year to escape the shadow of teammate Prost. Failed by blown engines and flat tires from claiming certain victories, ironically, the whispers that Hill was unworthy of the car gained in volume each time the car let him down. When victory finally came to Hill, it came in a bunch. The first win by the son of a world champion came in Budapest, Hungary, followed by his 2nd win in the next race at Spa, Belgium, and his 3rd at historic Monza, Italy. Today, Damon Hill makes his Japanese Grand Prix debut. 1992 witnessed the maiden victory for Germany's Michael Schumacher in Belgium. The most consistent points finisher in GP racing over the last year, Schumacher has claimed his 2nd win of the year, holding off new world champion Prost in Portugal. Yet Schumacher has never earned a point at Suzuka, Japan. Today, Michael Schumacher, the most emotional man in Formula One, returns to Japan seeking his 2nd straight victory. 2 races remain in the 1993 Formula One season. Time is running out for those who hope to make their name in the World Driving Championship. The time has come to risk it all in the quest for Grand Prix glory. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. From high overhead, you view the Suzuka circuit, home of the Grand Prix of Japan. Some 140,000 tickets were sold by lottery for this race from an application pool of 5.5 million people. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. With 14 races down, just 2 remain in the 93 season, and we have journeyed to the Pacific Rim, to the Suzuka circuit that has seen so many dramatic moments in Grand Prix racing over the years. Often those moments have included championships won by Frank Williams and his team. But the last 3 of those champions have taken flight. In 1987, Nelson Piquet won for Williams Honda, then followed the team's engines to Lotus. Last year, Piquet's old teammate Nigel Mansell clinched in Hungary and made his announcement at the next race.
Due to circumstances beyond my control, I have decided to retire from Formula One at the end of this season.
Alain Prost replaced Mansell at Williams. Now in the middle of a 2-year contract with the World Championship at hand, Prost has decided to retire at the top of his game.
That's why I want to stop in the best way, being on the top of the track, being happy outside.
Next up at Williams will be Ayrton Senna, hoping to recall the domination he once knew with the McLaren Honda. Should Senna clinch his 4th title and decide to move on, he'll be in good company among the Williams walking champions. But drivers aren't the only names changing teams. Here's ESPN Formula One analyst Derek Daly.
To succeed at the highest level, a team needs the support of a manufacturer who can produce race-winning horsepower. Williams have enjoyed the dominant power of the Renault V10, which made 1-2s in qualifying and racing almost the norm. The McLaren team, in an effort to keep up with Williams, have looked long and hard for an engine package that would satisfy their star driver Ayrton Senna. However, Senna will depart next season, and the McLaren's horsepower surge Well, at one time, it centered around the Chrysler Lamborghini V12. It was very fast in the back of a McLaren test car. But Ron Dennis instead opted for the new Peugeot V10, which is a derivative of the successful World Sports Car winning engine. Benetton's Flavio Briatore is still searching for more horses to propel his German star Michael Schumacher to new heights. The Lotus cars will make a significant change next season, bringing back the great name of Honda to Formula One in what is reported to be a major factory effort. And Ferrari will continue to give us the song of the thirsty V12 that may benefit next year from the ability to refuel during the races.
New engines to come. New faces are here now. We have that and much more coming up at the Grand Prix of Japan. This ESPN Speed World presentation is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda, it just feels right. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
At Yamaha, we've always left the competition in the dust. And now it's time they took a bath. Introducing the Yamaha Pro VXR, the world's leading personal watercraft. When it comes to acceleration, we're flat out better.
It wasn't normal to make a sports car with less weight and more power. But that's how we build the Mazda RX-7. Because there might be a few who'd like to know how a pure sports car feels.
Robert, all we need here is some oil and we'll be ready to crank. Okay. Jeff, get us suitcases. I have one. Yes, sir, right away. Robert, we're out. Get us suitcases and fly.
There's only one motor oil that Robert Gates Racing relies on for complete protection. Haviland Formula 3 from Texaco.
That was quick. Yeah, they headed right down the street.
The same Haviland Formula 3 you can use in your car.
Get a free Burger King meal when you buy a case of Haviland Formula 3. But hurry, a deal this tasty can't last long.
Driver, do you have any Bud Light in your vehicle?
Yes.
And I am Mr. Gallywikich.
You mean Dr. Galakowitz?
Yes, I am. This is so cool.
First time in a limo? Doctor?
In a limo this small.
If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
You are here. He has the traveler's checks here. There's got to be a better way. Here's one now. American Express checks for two. The only traveler's checks that either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
Suzuka circuit that is actually more than that. It also includes a theme park, a hotel, and much more. Now let's take a look at our starting lineup with the help of our Yamaha starting grid. On the pole, Alain Prost in the Williams Renault. His 33rd career mark ties the late Jim Clark for second on the all-time list. Ayrton Senna, with his new Williams contract in hand, will be alongside. Row 2, Mika Hakkinen of Finland, and Michael Schumacher in the new four-wheel steer Benetton Ford. Rows 3 and 4, Gerhard Berger, Damon Hill, Derek Warwick, and in the 8th spot, Derek Daly, one of our new faces.
Eddie Irvin, Irish driver, Irish team, golden opportunity, giving Barrichello, that man there, an Irish headache.
Aguri Suzuki, second fastest in the morning warm-up. Ricardo Patrese, and perhaps his last visit to Japan for Benetton, J.J. Leto is officially out of a job. Moving on to rows 7 and 8. Ukio Katayama, his best qualifying performance of the year in the Tyrrell, next to Jean Alesi, who spun out in final qualifying in the Ferrari. Row 8, Martin Brundle and Carl Wendlinger. On row 9, Mark Blundell in the Ligier and Andrea De Cesaris in the Tyrrell. Both men qualified their teammates' cars after theirs suffered mechanical problems. On row 10, Johnny Herbert and Pedro Lamy with the Lotus team. On rows 11 and 12, Eric Comas for LaRousse, Pierluigi Martini for Minardi, and then our two other new faces, Toshio Suzuki of Japan, a 38-year-old rookie, in for Philippe Ayot in the Larousse, and in the minority for Christian Fittipaldi, Jean-Marc Gounon of France, a Formula 3000 runner. Now, because the Scuderia Italia team is not here with Michele Alboreto and Luca Badoer, there are only 24 cars that will start this race. Now let's take a look at our race conditions. There was a chance of rain in the morning, but that has now gone away. The temperature, a medium warm 66 degrees, a light breeze that will be blowing from the drivers left to right as they come down the front straightaway. Previous winners of this race, there have been 7 runnings. 6 thus far. This is the 7th running of the Grand Prix of Japan. You see Riccardo Patrese, Gerhard Berger, Nelson Piquet, Alessandro Nannini. Great surprises every year here at Suzuka. Now a look at the drivers' points coming into this race. Of course, Alain Prost with 87 has locked up the championship. But look at 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Hill, Senna, and Schumacher. 10 points cover them, and we could see those standings juggled today. Derek Daly, you once raced here at Suzuka. Tell us a little bit about the circuit.
3.64 miles long makes it the 3rd longest track used by Formula One. Great track layout. Cars approach 190 miles an hour down the front straight. And then you have this section of hold your breath S's that definitely suits the Benettons and the McLarens, but not the Williams. Down to the hairpin, 40 miles an hour. Then down to the spoon. And then you have the blast at 185 miles an hour down to the scene of the crime chicane. The surface is very abrasive, and it wears tires out very quickly.
All of the teams will start on Goodyear's B compound, but they have an A compound, a harder tire available to them. We expect 1 stop for certain, possibly 2, and if the cars begin to stop in the first dozen laps or so, you know that they'll be making a 2nd stop. But the pit lane is very wide, both on entry and exit here at Suzuka, and as a result, the pit stops do not take much time, so they'll take them rather than risk things.
And this is the spoon, one of the few corners in the circuit here in Japan that actually has a name rather than a number. They go through here in race conditions above 75 miles an hour.
Now they come onto the straightaway where they'll hit some 190 miles per hour. A look at the crowd there ringing the track. 5.5 million people applied for tickets to this event at well over the equivalent of $200 US for the best seats. 140,000 plus many thousands more standing. Now they come over the brow and toward the chicane that has meant so much to this race over the years. Back in 1989, Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost as McLaren teammates collided there. Prost walked away with the World Championship when Senna was disqualified, and a very happy Alessandro Nannini was granted the victory. Then in 1990, when Prost had moved on to Ferrari, he and Senna were on the front row. Down into the first corner they went where they collided, knocked each other out of the race, and Senna picked up the World Championship. You saw Mika Hakkinen going up the hill there.
You see how tight the chicane is here. They have changed it many times, trying to get the ideal mix of slow speed and yet not too difficult. It's not a popular corner with the drivers here.
Now, there is a bit of a somber note to this Japanese Grand Prix following the news that on Friday, Innes Ireland, who won the U.S. Grand Prix at Watkins Glen for Lotus back in 1961, passed away after a long fight with cancer at the age of 63. Our thoughts go out to his family. But now we have a race to run. Ayrton Senna, who never gets the starting position he wants in this race. There is Alain Prost about to begin his last Japanese Grand Prix from pole position.
Senna is dynamite at the start, but he hates this inside line. He said there is not enough grip, and it's very dusty, but he is dynamite when that light goes green.
Now, Alain Prost has been anything but perfect when it comes to starts all year long, as you know well if you've been with us, including one stall that put him to the back of the field in Hungary. The cars come to their positions on the grid, everybody keeping to that clean left-hand line. Now they dive over into their positions. We'll have the green flag from the back of the field as they come under starters' orders. Then the red light and the green, and we will be underway. Prost and Senna. We have the green flag. Red light. We're away, shuttling wide the circuit. Senna with the lead down into the first corner, and Prost apparently very obliging in giving it to him. Mika Hakkinen closed up now on the second place. Williams of Alain Prost. Behind him looks like Gerhard Berger, and the Ferrari got a great start.
And it also looked like Damon Hill got a great start. Went outside one of the Benetton cars. But Senna, we said it earlier, dynamite at the start. And these S's here, the McLaren and the Benettons, are much, much quicker than the Williams.
That appears to be Jean-Marc Gounon, the Formula 3000 runner from France, sitting in for Christian Fittipaldi for this race. The team was anxious to let everyone know that Fittipaldi is not in... Oh, and Andrea De Cesaris is off in the gravel in the S's.
Crashed earlier in practice, and now he doesn't even make it round one lap before he deposits the troublesome Tyrrell right into the sand trap and into the guardrail.
Back to my point about Fittipaldi. The Minardi team said, no, Fittipaldi is our man. We want him to lead our team next year. The fact is that Jean-Marc Gounon came up with tremendous money to run these last two races, and thus he is in the Minardi today. Through the spoon curve, now up through the gearbox, up to 190 miles an hour. Ayrton Senna drawing away from Alain Prost.
The Williams is not as dominant here as we've seen all year because through the S's, for some reason, they could never get the balance of this car right. And on the speed traps, Senna and the Benetton cars through the S's were much faster every single time. But when you got onto these long 190-mile-an-hour straights, the power of the Renault V10 told, and Prost was always faster down the straight. Look at the lead Senna has on lap one.
In qualifying, the top 5 cars were covered by less than 1/2 a second. There's your running order for the top 6, the points-paying positions. Senna, Prost, Hakkinen, and Berger. Look at Eddie Irvine and Michael Schumacher. Let's take another look now at the start of this race as Ayrton Senna continues to draw away from Alain Prost. Prost on the right, Senna on the left.
It was Eddie Irvine who got that tremendous start and went outside one of the Benettons. Watch it, he comes from 8th place on the grid. There he's in the middle. He's behind the Ferrari. And remember, he knows this racetrack better than everybody else here because of his Formula 3000 experience. Now watch him around the outside here. There he goes, around the outside of the Benetton, up on the curb, and slots the Jordan into a season-high 5th place. Eddie Irvine is on the charge here.
Now here's a look from above, and you saw Eddie Irvine giving up all that blue tire smoke. He's had a terrible time getting used to Formula One technology. His neck has been hurting him extraordinarily this weekend, and he's not used to using the traction control. Getting into the corner, just planting your foot and letting the car sort things out. He's used to a Formula 3000 car where you still have to feather the throttle. Senna really getting after it, putting the wheels off on the right side, and look at the lead he's opened up on Alain Prost.
People said lost his motivation. That's why Hakkinen was so much faster than Michael Andretti seemed to be in this car. Very close to Senna. He doesn't look as if he's lost motivation today. Down the front straight here, you said it earlier, 140,000 people here is all they could fit in out of 5 million people who wanted to come to this Formula One race.
Ayrton Senna has had a wonderful relationship with this racetrack over the years. He is an absolute demigod here as a result of his success with the Honda team, and right now he leads the early laps of the Grand Prix of Japan.
Remember those old dirt tracks, AJ? The dirt would just heat up the engines.
2 champions sharing a winning formula. Haviland Formula 3.
My favorite win was going to be in '69. I had to give it to you. You shouldn't have even made a half a lap.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil from Texaco.
Heck, I still feel if I can't win, I don't want nobody to win. I'll try to remember that, AJ. Do that.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Red ball of fire!
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. So much love drives a man insane. You broke my wheel, what a thrill. Isn't it to raise your red balls of fire?
Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
Hockey is governed by 3 laws of motion. 1. Bodies in linear motion will continue in a straight path unless acted upon by another force. 2. A direct relationship exists between acceleration and force. 3. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Of course, some events fall into the realm of chaos theory. A force best represented as ESPN 2.
Back at Suzuka, Japan, after 3 complete laps of 53 scheduled at the Grand Prix of Japan, Bob Barsha, Derek Daly with you. There is Ayrton Senna, the race leader. Behind him, it's Alain Prost, Mika Hakkinen, Gerhard Berger. Eddie Irvine now coming under fire from Damon Hill. Michael Schumacher, I should say, is up ahead of Irvine into 5th place, chasing Gerhard Berger. In 8th is Aguri Suzuki, making great progress with the footwork Mugen Honda car. Then Derek Warwick, Ricardo Patrese, J.J. Leto in 11th, followed by Carl Wendlinger, Jean Alesi, Martin Brundle, Rubens Barrichello, Ukio Katayama, Johnny Herbert, Mark Blundell, Tashio Suzuki, Pierluigi Martini, Pedro Lamy, Eric Comas, and Jean-Marc Gugnon. Andre de Cesaris, the only car out of the race at this point. Through that impossibly slow chicane, right and left turns.
On board with Michael Schumacher, hits the green button on the steering wheel. These cars are controlled by those buttons on the steering wheel. Look at, he's all over the curbs.
Gerhard Berger just ahead. If you recall Berger's incredible accident in Portugal where he was at the pit exit and immediately shot 90 degrees left across the racetrack, across the bows of Derek Warwick. The Ferrari team has come up with their official explanation for that race. They say Berger was going so quickly at the pit exit that the automatic suspension adjustment figured he was on the racetrack, lowered the rear of the car for optimum downforce, low downforce configuration. He hit a bump and the car jumped sideways on him.
And of course, that's when the technology becomes dangerous. And that's one of the things that will not be able to happen next year, they hope, because the technology cut back all these gizmos, all these electronic buttons. Not the electronic gearbox, but the electronic suspension will be gone. This is the hairpin. Slowest corner on the racetrack, 40 miles an hour down to 2nd gear. 3rd gear they use. Now here's the attack mode here. That's Schumacher down inside of Lacey. Tries to get down inside him. Berger.
Gerhard Berger, Michael Schumacher. Now, Schumacher is driving the newest Benetton technology. 4-wheel steering. The rear wheels steer 4 or 5 degrees to the right or left to help in cornering. The technology will be illegal under the new rules in 1994, but they're using it here in Japan.
You can clearly hear on the down changes of the crackle of that Ford V8. We heard it earlier with Senna. Now we can hear it with Schumacher also. He throws something or wipes something off his visor with his right hand that time. But watch how quickly he jumps onto that blue button. The green one down changes the gearbox. Look how close he gets here. Woo! All over Berger. Now watch the left hand on the blue button. That's it. It lowers the rear of the car, makes him faster in a straight line to try and keep up with that V12 Ferrari.
The Ferraris have been going very well here. Gerhard Berger was on pole for this race in the 2nd qualifying session on Saturday until the last 15 minutes. As we mentioned earlier this year, Honda is collaborating with Ferrari on their power supplies this year, and they also gave Ferrari all sorts of information about the Suzuka circuit because this track is owned by Honda and they do a great deal of testing here. Now the Benetton, quicker through the S's, closes up once again on the Ferrari.
And these S's, look how good the Benetton car here is. The Ford engine cars seem to have a handling package that is better than the larger engine cars all through these S's. They go through there at between 125 and 150 miles an hour down to the hairpin. But the Ferrari V12, you see, he draws away under acceleration and then again under braking. Look at you can just quick glance at Damon Hill, who has managed to claw his way past the very impressive Eddie Irvine.
French press has been reporting that the Benetton team has been working hard to try to buy the Ligier team. Ligier reportedly in deep debt. The team management says that is not the case, but they are involved with several banks in a lawsuit over something or other. But it would appear that Benetton is trying to acquire Ligier. Of course, the ultimate goal to acquire their supply of Renault engines, the engine to have in Formula One in 1993.
Fourth and fifth place here. Green button down changes. Ferrari ahead, over the curbs, almost crosses his arms under lock. Ferrari hits the ground, sparks fly off.
Down across the start-finish line they come. The 0 car in blue and yellow coming up from behind quickly is Damon Hill. Look at that crowd in the background. I believe they've added an extra tier of seats back there to expand the capacity of this Suzuka International Grand Prix circuit. There are your top 6. Hill moving up into the 6th spot, trying desperately to get into this battle with Schumacher and Berger for 4th place.
Oh, through the S and C, the way the Benetton closes up there. Schumacher, probably the fittest man in Formula 1, does more training than any other driver in F1, probably to his detriment. He will have arthroscopic surgery on one of his knees after the Australian Grand Prix, and they say it's because of overtraining.
Once again, Schumacher closes in on Gerhard Berger. Meanwhile, Damon Hill closes up. It'll be interesting to watch those Renault engines in the Williams cars. In the past, after they have clinched driver and constructors championships, they immediately had started experimenting on new bits and pieces for the coming season. And as a result, they often suffered engine problems. It hasn't been the case so far this weekend. Alain Prost has gone on record as saying he knows of no changes to the engines for this race, but that remains to be seen.
Great in-car camera stuff here. That left-hander there is flat in qualifying at 180 miles an hour.
Schumacher now right up behind Gerhard Berger. A very difficult circuit to pass on.
He needs to get by him if he's going to have a chance to hold off Damon Hill, because you can clearly see Damon Hill is quicker than these 2 cars ahead. So Schumacher will be in trouble trying to defend his position rather than attack for Berger's position.
They begin to close up. We'll take a quick timeout. We won't let you miss anything. If there's a pass to be made while we're in commercial, we'll show it to you. Stay with us for more from Suzuka.
Some things change, some things remain the same. At Courtesy Honda, some things are changing, some are not. The new 94 Honda Accord has arrived, and it's changed. With a new, more aerodynamic body style, driver and passenger side airbags, a new easy access instrument panel, and a new, more fuel-efficient engine. Courtesy Honda, on the other hand, has not changed. You can still get a great deal on the #1 selling car in America at Courtesy Honda, where I-10 crosses veterans in Metairie.
Introducing the Cox Cable All-Star Team. The dedicated, hard-working employees who bring the exciting world of cable television to your home. The friendly service representatives and installers who guarantee timely appointments. The skilled technicians who guarantee a clear, trouble-free picture. And an overall guarantee of great entertainment and tremendous value.
At Cox Cable, we guarantee star quality.
So reach out and see what star quality can do.
Could last-minute insanity hit the Big East again? The past 2 games between Pitt and Rutgers were decided by only 5 points. Another showdown Thursday night on ESPN.
The oldest rookie in a long time in Formula 1 at age 38, in for Philippe Ayot, has spun here in his home Grand Prix at Suzuka, Japan.
Bought his way into Philippe Ayot's car. He better keep... Oh, he does. He knows well. He's kept it running. That is the chicane. You see it there before that long front straight.
Trouble area.
We've seen so much trouble there in the past, but Suzuki, 5 years, he's competed in the Japanese Formula 3000 circuit, so knows this racetrack very, very well. In fact, he's done a lot of testing in Formula 1 here. In 1986, he was the test driver for the Williams Honda development program right here at this racetrack.
Now here's a replay from Fuji Television of Japan. Our host broadcasters, that's how he went around and almost collected Pierluigi Martini, who shortcut the chicane, it would appear.
Oh, and you could see that Blundell locked up that right front first. Maybe that would have that concertina effect as it went back. Suzuki got into a panic situation and locked it up, thinking that Blundell was going to have problems.
Gerhard Berger, who once won the Grand Prix of Japan. Behind him, Michael Schumacher, who has never scored a point here in 2 previous visits. And Damon Hill, 3 times a winner in 1993. All of those victories in the second half of the season, looking for his first victory or perhaps his first points here in Japan.
Berger, who says he did not enjoy this season, went through the painful development of that active suspension on the Ferrari time and time again. Even this weekend, he would go out, bad handling problems, electrical problems with the active suspension. However, this Ferrari team has got stronger as the team has gone on, or as the season has gone on, and he is definitely keeping his fingers crossed for that new John Barnard design. The 5-valve engine that they used is not here. They've come here with only the new 4-valve engine, hoping that will be better. Alesi is out.
Jean Alesi's car, I believe that's up in there, the chicane area as well. That's the pit entry in the background. Alesi is done. He has had an absolutely terrible weekend with problems with his semi-automatic transmission, with his self-leveling suspension, and now it would appear with something that has knocked him out of this race.
He crashed on Friday, came back to the pits and said, absolutely my fault. So seldom you get a driver to stand up and take the blame like that. Wasn't too much damage to the car, but his race obviously has not lasted very long.
You saw a starting grid on the racetrack back there. There are several different iterations of this circuit. It can be used in several different configurations at the same time. And as a result, they have various pit complexes and starting grids. Oh, it's that concertina, as you say. Accordion to those of us from New York. Closes up one more time.
4th, 5th, and 6th. All points paying positions here. Look at the power advantage that the Ferrari V12 has, and Damon Hill does exactly the same thing under sheer horsepower, pulls out and just blows away Michael Schumacher. You need horsepower at a racetrack like this, but in through these S's is where Schumacher is much faster than these cars. You can see it right here, but he won't be able to make a pass.
V12 Ferrari, V10 Renault, V8 Ford running nose to tail.
Damon Hill hasn't had a good weekend. Set the pole time here on Saturday and then crashed. Flew off the road, was not able to have a second crack at it, and qualified in a low for him 5th place. Wasn't happy in the warm-up this morning and is really learning the circuit, because remember, he's never raced here before.
You saw the glow from the brake discs on Damon Hill's car as he slowed it down. Meanwhile, you see the sunshine has gone away as you look back from Hill's car to Schumacher. And behind them, Aguri Suzuki, who has displaced Eddie Irvine back to 8th spot. So Suzuki is moving up, and this crowd will go absolutely bananas if he gets close. Suspension working in relation to the bodywork as Damon Hill tries to close up on the Ferrari through the spoon curve and onto the back straight.
And look at Suzuki. He is catching this train of cars ahead of him. How good did Suzuki go in race trim? He was the 2nd fastest car on the racetrack in the morning warm-up. Everybody said he's obviously had a light fuel load, but you can clearly see here he is happy with that race setup on that footwork car. Will it be a footwork next year? We don't know.
Wataharu Ohashi, who owns the Footwork Corporation and the team, says he cannot continue to fund it at the level he has to this point, $30 or $40 million a year. Jackie Oliver, the team manager, confirms that he has been told by Mr. Ohashi that they must find outside sponsorship or risk their future in Formula One. How ironic now that Aguri Suzuki is going so well here on home soil. And notice the clouds now. Dark clouds beginning to boil up. We were assured that there was a very low chance of rain here today, but the sun has gone behind the clouds, and we may see raindrops before the day is over. 10 laps complete. Senna, Prost, Hakkinen, Berger, Hill, and Schumacher. More drama still to come from Japan. Stay with us.
It wasn't normal to make a sports car with less weight and more power. But that's how we build the Mazda RX-7. Because there might be a few who'd like to know how a pure sports car feels.
We interrupt all this fun and excitement to bring you an important message. For a limited time, you can get 9.9% financing on select Yamaha water vehicles, along with low sale prices on every Yamaha. 9.9. It's our best rate, so don't wait. Head over to your Yamaha water vehicle dealer now.
matter what you drive, we've got you covered from H to Z.
You are here. She has the traveler's checks here. What can you do? Well, carry American Express checks for two. The only traveler's checks that one of you purchase, but either of you can use. Don't leave home without them.
Back at Suzuka, Japan, the Grand Prix of Japan, round 15 of 16 of the 1993 World Championship. The red Ferrari of Gerhard Berger under attack from Damon Hill in the Williams Renault. Just behind him, Michael Schumacher could not make the turn. And Aguri Suzuki will go by Schumacher, who has been hit or hit something, and the left front is absolutely deranged.
Disaster for Schumacher, who has yet to score a point at the Japanese Grand Prix. Damon Hill tried to make an impossible move down the outside of the Ferrari, and Schumacher obviously had nowhere to go. He collided, obviously, I think, with the back of Damon Hill. Briatore looks on in total dismay, knows that his star man is now in the sand.
Meanwhile, Mika Hakkinen has pitted his McLaren. Hakkinen running in... Why can I not find him? He was in third place at the time.
Here it is. Clearly see it. Clearly see it. Damon Hill down the outside. Now, did he damage the back of Damon Hill's car? But you could see it was quite a heavy impact that folded back that left front suspension. Schumacher got caught out there. He should have stayed back because it was going to be impossible to make a pass when it was too wide into that chicane, one way or the other.
There's Ayrton Senna, the race leader, and there is Alain Prost running in second place as they flash across the start-finish line. 2.1 seconds, the gap from Senna to Prost. Mika Hakkinen, meanwhile, still shown in third place after that pit stop. He had well over half a minute on Gerhard Berger when he came in. He is back out there on fresh tires, but he'll have another stop in his future. Ferrari, you saw, getting ready to welcome in Gerhard Berger. Jean Alesi is already out of the race. Here comes Berger to the pits.
We mentioned earlier, if you have to stop within 12 laps, you will have to make another stop. That's what the Goodyear tire technicians informed us of earlier. So Berger, along with Hakkinen, will go for two stops.
Ferrari has been blistering their pit stops of late. There's another good one, 5.41.
The entrance and the exit to the pits here are very clean and fast. So Berger makes it out onto the racetrack safely as opposed to what happened at the last race.
But he has obviously given up positions in the racetrack. No matter, lots of pit stops still to come. Ayrton Senna up front, who clinched his first and second World Championships here. The first one coming when he stalled his McLaren on the starting grid. Half the field went by him back in 1988. He drove a storming race through the field and finished the last lap with tears running down his face. On board with Aguri Suzuki, there you see the telemetry being used by Fuji Television.
And it is real-time telemetry. This is the speed, and this is what is actually going on in a straight line. You can see almost 300 kilometers as he makes his way down through these S's, and Senna makes it in. So Senna will also have to make two pit stops.
Pneumatically driven jack at the front of the nose there. A little slow coming down at the rear, but still a good stop for the McLaren team.
Whoa, those front tires went on, I think, in less than 4 seconds. The front tire jack, the guy with the jack at the front was gone in just over 3 seconds.
There's Alain Prost, the new race leader. Now, we talked earlier this year about new regulations in Formula One for next year. 64 engine limit on a two-car team. 10 people per pit stop. That has now changed in a recent meeting. As you see, Mika Hakkinen has now set fast lap on his fresh tires. The 10-man limit on pit stops and the engine restrictions have been lifted for 1994. Look at the brakes glowing on Prost's car as he goes down into that tight hairpin.
Carbon fiber brakes, they glow red hot in a fraction of a second. And as soon as you come off the brake pedal, they actually cool down almost just as fast. Believe it or not, they actually wear better than the old steel brakes did, and they're incredibly efficient. Now, will Prost stop early, the master of saving his tires. Maybe he will be one of the few men that could stretch this and get away with just one pit stop. He's done that before.
Meanwhile, down in the pits, tires were out for a stop for Damon Hill, but they have now been put away. So it appears that Williams will opt for a one-stop race if they can make it happen. It's a very, very abrasive track. And Alain Prost, as well as Damon Hill and the rest of the field, started on the softest available compound, the B compound from Goodyear. And it appears they will try to make them last for half distance.
Again, Goodyear brought 2,000 tires here to Japan. The A's and the B's, A's being harder. Everybody elected to start on the B's, the softer compound. They burned off 14 laps worth of fuel. That was why you saw Mika Hakkinen set that fastest lap on fresh tires. Don't be surprised if Senna now attacks that fastest lap that Mika Hakkinen just set.
In contrast to Ayrton Senna's success here, Alain Prost has had very little. He has never won here in Japan. One of the few races in his extraordinary 13-year career with 52 victories that Alain Prost has visited a racetrack and not won. Aguri Suzuki now stopping in the footwork pits. 6.82 seconds, not the kind of standard we're used to seeing in Formula One.
The Japanese spectators and fans are so emotionally involved with their drivers, both Suzuki's and Katayama. Remember, they were in tears of joy when he was on the rostrum here, his only visit to the rostrum. The fans were crying. They were so happy for his success.
That was back in 1990 when Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost collided at the first corner of this racetrack. They've also collided at the last one.
Things look good so far. We're inside Ayrton Senna, but things looking good so far for McLaren. There's that gray clouds. But things didn't look great for Ron Dennis earlier this week. Remember the McLaren Formula One road car? They brought one here to demonstrate to potential Japanese buyers. But Ron Dennis took it out, put Gerhard Berger in the passenger seat to show him what it was like, and crashed it on one of his laps around this racetrack. The car was so badly damaged it had to be shipped back to England for major surgery. So Mika Hakkinen's test drives of the Japanese potential customers that was to happen tomorrow will no longer happen in that once brand new and untouched McLaren F1 road car.
What a spectacular car it is. The driver's seating position is in the center of the car, like a single-seater race car. His passengers, and there are only room for two, sit at either of the driver's shoulders. A spectacular machine introduced at Monaco earlier this year. Of course, Ron Dennis is the boss. If he wants to throw one off the racetrack, I suppose it's his right. There is Alain Prost looking for a victory in Japan before he wraps up his extraordinary Grand Prix career. We'll be back for more of the Formula One Grand Prix of Japan in just a moment.
When it comes to getting your Ford serviced, you don't want any surprises. That's why Interstate Ford in Metairie keeps the prices for the most common services listed on a menu over the service counter so you can see what the charges are up front, like a Motorcraft engine tune-up for as low as $39.95. Stop in at Interstate Ford, 3724 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. There are no surprises at Interstate Ford, where your car can be serviced right the first time. Quality care, where the quality continues.
Introducing the Cox Cable All-Star Team. The dedicated, hard-working employees who bring the exciting world of cable television to your home. The friendly service representatives and installers who guarantee timely appointments. The skilled technicians who guarantee a clear, trouble-free picture. And an overall guarantee of great entertainment and tremendous value.
At Cox Cable, we guarantee star quality.
So reach out and see what star quality can do.
Start your NFL Sunday with the show the pros watch. ESPN NFL Game Day. Our pros will get you ready for a day of NFL excitement. ESPN NFL Game Day. Today at noon Eastern, only on ESPN.
One of the most densely populated nations on Earth, the Japanese do love their motor racing. They will line up in the midnight hours, half a day before the gates open here at the Suzuka Circuit, and they will go immediately to the concession stands, which they will ransack. They buy up everything in sight having anything to do with Formula One. And 140,000 of them had seats here today. 5.5 million people asked for tickets. Now, we have reports from around the racetrack at Suzuka that rain is beginning to fall. A little bit of glistening on the tires there. On the left, Mika Hakkinen. On the right, I believe that's Toshio Suzuki. No relation to Aguri Suzuki. Oops. Problems in that LaRousse Lamborghini for Suzuki.
That did not look good. It was on the down change. That is it. It's over. That is over for the Lamborghini V12. Pull it in before you deposit the rest of that oil all over the racing line. Mika Hakkinen, very lucky he didn't get a helmet visor full of that oil.
Can't believe our friends from Fuji Television weren't able to pick that up, especially since that's a Japanese driver out there. Nevertheless, Mika Hakkinen continues his extraordinary performances for the McLaren team. He had outpaced Ayrton Senna for much of the early part of the weekend and qualified third for today's race. Hakkinen likely to be the #1 driver. In fact, almost assuredly will be the #1 driver for McLaren next year. The question is, who will drive alongside? Yannick Dalmas of France has been proposed because of his intimate knowledge of the Peugeot engines McLaren will use next year. But Mark Blundell, that is, now with the Ligier team, has also been mentioned. He is a former McLaren test driver and has intimate knowledge of the rival Renault V10 engines. You see Damon Hill rocketing up the backstretch, and it's beginning to rain harder here in Suzuka. So now the team managers in the pits must make strategy decisions. How soon do you roll out the grooved rain tires?
Well, a decision like that will usually be left to the driver. He can judge. We're trying to have a good look here to see. You can't really see much more than a light glistening on those tires. But Senna picked up 2 seconds over Alain Prost on the last lap alone. But you can see the pit crews are getting ready as the rain tires are out and ready for one of the footwork cars.
Damon Hill rockets across the start-finish line, running in 4th place. It is Prost, Senna, Hakkinen, Hill. Eddie Irvine now back up into 5th place again following Gerhard Berger's pit stop. Despite that quick pit stop for Berger, he went from 4th to 10th in the race. Right now, he runs in 8th spot. Ahead of him, Irvine is 5th, followed by Derek Warwick in 6th, Ricardo Patrese 7th. Then behind Berger in 8th, Rubens Barrichello in 9th. Both of the Jordan cars in the top 10, followed by Ukio Katayama in the Tyrrell in 10th place. So the Japanese crowd has a lot to cheer about here today.
Damon Hill now securely has his next year's contract already signed and in his back pocket. You see his brake glow there as he just jumps on the brake pedal for a quick second. Imagine partnering Alain Prost 1 year and then moving on to Ayrton Senna. What a test of somebody's nerve. I wonder who's the tougher guy to team with, Senna or Prost? I would imagine it must be Senna, because there has not been a driver yet who has survived a partnership with Ayrton Senna. So it'll be an interesting exercise for Damon Hill next year.
Both men are masters of the political games of Formula One, and I think Senna has already fired the first shot. He will be in the Williams next year. In the press interview that the top 3 qualifiers for the race are required to attend, Alain Prost said he tried to wring as much possible as possible out of the car, and he gave 100%. Ayrton Senna was then asked what he thought of his performance relative to the Williams cars, and Senna looked at the interviewers and said, "I don't think the Williams drivers are using their cars to maximum potential." Alain Prost now into the pits for the first Williams, that is Damon Hill into the pits. Hill into the pits for the first Williams pit stop.
And it's slicks. He's on slicks, stays on slicks. So it's obviously not too much rain. We can see from one of our camera angles, halfway around the racetrack, we could clearly see the rain droplets on the lens, but it's not enough. And Damon Hill has the choice.
Oh, I'm not sure he made the right decision there. You could see on the straightaway there, water being pitched up by the tires. I think if he had it to do over, Damon Hill would take the Groove Rain tires. There's Ricardo, is that Patrese there, coming under fire from Gerhard Berger? Yes, it is. That's for 7th place. Just ahead, Derek Warwick is in 6th place, so that's for position as well.
Well, look at Eddie Irvine. I almost said Ernie Irvine. Eddie Irvine now
Easy
back
to do.
to put an attack onto Damon Hill here. Hill is on cooler tires than Eddie Irvine.
And you can tell it is raining so hard, the car's going noticeably slower now. The kind of thing that plays into the hands of an Ayrton Senna with his consummate car control. Jean Alesi would be another man to watch if his Ferrari were still running. Sadly, it is not.
You can clearly see how slow these cars go, even though it is not a downpour. Remember Donington earlier this year? Look at this. That's the other Tyrrell of Katayama.
Ukio Katayama taking the long way around that corner.
Oh, look at the rainfall now. You can clearly see it now begin to come down.
Andre De Cesaris is out of the race, so if you see a Tyrrell, it will be Katayama. Everybody going almost comically slow now, given the downpour. There's Katayama once again, back out on the track. And look at the rain starting to fall. Umbrellas coming out.
Well, this is going to put the cat among the pigeons here now. Who is going to take the risk? Remember, Senna's already stopped. Prost hates these conditions.
There is Derek Warwick. Now here's Rubens Barrichello. Everybody heading for the pits. Wholesale pit stops for wet weather tires coming up. You can see why. Now Senna right up behind Prost.
This is Prost's nightmare, his worst nightmare. Senna absolutely blows his doors off. Down the inside, he is a master of these iffy conditions. And the thing to think of earlier this year was Donington Park. What a superb display. Wet weather tires, the order of the day.
Oh, Ricardo Patrese getting new ones. I'm not sure that right front went on. No, they're trying to stop him. I don't think, well, maybe they're not going to stop him.
Again, those right front tire men get those tires on, I think, in under 3 seconds. Wholesale tire stops. Everybody now on wets. There's the new paint job on Brundle's Ligier.
Now here comes Ayrton Senna, just having taken the lead, coming in behind one of the Minardis.
First Prost.
There's Katayama. Here comes Pierluigi Martini, followed by Ayrton Senna.
This is the battle for the lead, remember. Battle for the lead. Prost will be... In fact, Prost is in behind him. Senna gets there, keeps the lead.
No sign of Alain Prost yet. Still no sign of Prost. There's Mika Hakkinen now coming in. Let's see if the McLaren team is ready for him. It appears they are. There goes Alain Prost in the background.
Remember, the Williams team had 13 pit stops in total at Donington. Alain Prost had 7, and the Williams team did criticize their team leader for not making the right judgment calls all the way through the race at Donington. They believed that cost them a crucial win.
Well, it seems like a million years ago as you watch Ron Dennis, Major Domo at the McLaren team, that we started this season. We had rain, in the first 7 races of the year, I believe. We saw raindrops, either a light sprinkle or the downpours of Brazil and South Africa and Donington. And there is the man who always benefits in the rain, Ayrton Senna. Stay with us.
What do all these police officers have in common?
My name is Patrolman James New, and I was shot once Bob Parcell, and I was shot right above the heart.
Every year, more police officers are shot.
Point-blank range.
Yet fewer die, thanks to an innovative DuPont fiber called Kevlar in bullet-resistant vests.
Tina Dillard, and I was shot twice at close range.
Being a police officer is always going to be dangerous, but it doesn't have to be fatal. DuPont, better things for better living.
I was right behind him and he started to spin. I know the feeling, know where to go, right?
2 champions sharing a winning formula. Haviland, Formula 3.
Very unpleasant on an oval, I'd think. Some people just can't get it right. Even at Indy? Oh, especially at Indy.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil from Texaco.
Perhaps I should follow you then. Not a bad idea, Nigel.
Do you add a tip when you pay your taxes? Use lots of stamps when you only need one? Well, your brand is probably on this table, next to mine. Both brands protect to 84 below zero. Boil-over protection? Identical. And both protect all metals. There is one important difference. Either this one costs about $1 more, or this one costs about $1 less. Peak. Maximum everything, except the price.
It wasn't normal to make a sports car with less weight and more power. But that's how we build the Mazda RX-7. Because there might be a few who'd like to know how a pure sports car feels.
Back at Suzuka, Japan, here comes Damon Hill out of the pits. He made the wrong decision by going to slick tires in his previous stop. There is Ayrton Senna. Hill came back in. Oh, and Aguri Suzuki takes the footwork off. Diabolical conditions here at Suzuka. Look at the rooster tails. Oh, is he high-center the car? No, he'll get back on.
No curbing, so he just backed the wheels onto the grass, didn't high-center that car. Luckily kept it running. But all the Japanese drivers are in major league trouble here. And the master goes on. He loves these conditions. He always believes he can pull one over his competitors and show that he is the best driver in the world when you get conditions like this.
All of these pit stops have jumbled the racing order. It is Senna, Prost, and Hakkinen. Eddie Irvine, according to timing and scoring, now up into 4th place. And look at the visibility as Alain Prost brings the number 2 Williams Renault around Mika Hakkinen. Excuse me, he's in front of Mika Hakkinen. This is 2nd and 3rd.
Now, Mika Hakkinen knows well that Alain Prost does not like these conditions. So we may very quickly see a McLaren 1-2 here at the head of the grid, because Hakkinen has that youthful bravery. And remember, Prost does not like, he's left that youthful bravery behind 10 years ago.
And car control as you watch Jean-Marc Gounon in replay here.
And you can bet when it comes on in slow motion, we're going to see some action. Look at him burn the rear wheels off that baby. That's it. Sore neck muscles and all didn't make any difference there.
Gounon comes from Formula 3000. He looked like he came from Top Fuel drag racing there. That was a burnout.
He's had terrible trouble here all weekend with his neck muscles. Remember, he had 3 years of Formula 3000, but almost nothing this year in a racing car. And you cannot train for racing conditions unless you're in the racing car. So he's had terrible trouble here all weekend with his neck muscles.
Eddie Irvine has made a pit stop for the Jordan team. Rubens Barrichello came out right behind Damon Hill a few moments ago, so they are now on their grooved rain tires. Look how slick the racetrack is. Mika Hakkinen from Finland, being Scandinavian, driving on slick surfaces comes as second nature to him. A tremendous history of great rally drivers from the Scandinavian countries, no doubt in part to the long winters. There is Senna, Prost, Hakkinen. Now, Irvine is no longer there. He just pitted, so Derek Warwick will move up into 4th, Berger to 5th, and Damon Hill to 6th.
You can see the camera lens having trouble keeping the rain off to give us good pictures here, but Mika Hakkinen had a superb run here last year, knows the racetrack very well, ran here for Lotus last year. In fact, Frank Williams tried to sign Mika Hakkinen before he signed Damon Hill. At the end of last season, he decided to become the test driver for McLaren. Actually, he was forced to become the test driver because McLaren signed Michael Andretti, and then Senna decided he would come back. But he has enjoyed the benefit of being away from the spotlight and getting thousands of miles in this car, which allowed him to come to Portugal at the last race and be absolutely spectacular in his 93 season's debut. Look at the wide line he takes on his wet weather tires here. Very different to what Alain Prost uses.
Nevertheless, Alain Prost is still well out in front. We've talked a lot this year about how Alain Prost takes the conservative approach, very gentle on the race car. perhaps even raising the question about his commitment to Formula One in light of his decision to retire. But no less an authority than Niki Lauda, now an advisor to the Ferrari team, says when he needs to, the little Frenchman can be as crazy as anybody out there, and he can do a lap when he needs a lap. So don't think that just because the situation is deteriorating in terms of traction and visibility that Alain Prost is going to let Mika Hakkinen just drive around him. Skies appearing to be lightening up just a little bit. We may get more sunshine before this race is run. We're approaching the halfway mark in this 53-lap race, and yet the raindrops continue to pelt down on Suzuka, Japan.
It is definitely coming down in bucketfuls right now. The bravery is rewarded in conditions like this. Derek Warwick still has his on the track behind Berger and Damon Hill, being very careful. Damon Hill in 7th place, Berger 6th, and Derek Warwick, Hill just slides by on down the inside of the Ferrari. Very difficult to see. You better make sure your visor has plenty of fog-free on the inside and a nice new visor to rub the water off, because remember, it's the wind over your visor as you accelerate that keeps clearing the rain off your visor and allows you to see.
Now it seems we have a patch of sunshine here. Even if the rain stops, it's going to be very humid, and then these drivers are going to have to deal with fog on their visors.
And this is not unlike typical Japanese racing conditions. It rains so often here in Japan during these events that the Japanese drivers in particular...
Carl Wendlinger in the Sauber has gone off.
That looks like exactly the same thing as Katayama went off earlier on. They missed the braking point, go wide, but there's enough of a runoff area to go all the way around the long way and safely get back on the racetrack. Now, Warwick holds 4th place, points paying position for footwork. That is vital, but Damon Hill will probably take it from him. Here's a replay. Wendlinger luckily gets away with the 2.5 full turns and manages to keep the engine running.
If he'd added a full twist, he might have gotten a better score. Carl Wendlinger will have a new teammate in the Sauber Equipe next year. Heinz-Harald Frentzen from Germany will come on board with sponsorship from a German cleaning machine company that will take on the entire team next year. Frentzen, according to Michael Schumacher, is the quickest of the generation of Mercedes-Benz sports car drivers that were known as the Mercedes Junior Team. Schumacher, Wendlinger, and Frentzen.
Now remember who made that comment. Schumacher made that. He included himself in that group. He thinks Frentzen is potentially quicker than Schumacher himself. He said it. Look at this.
Around the outside of Derek Warwick goes Damon Hill, moving up now into 4th spot, dropping Warwick to 5th, and those are important points for Damon Hill. Keep in mind the driver's standing. Ayrton Senna came into this race just 9 points down to Hill for 2nd place. Senna now leads this race and could pick up 10 points. So if he's going to keep pace, Damon Hill has to score as many as he can.
He used that same wide line to pass Gerhard Berger. He was already out there. He knew there was grip, so he had total confidence in doing exactly the same thing around the outside of Derek Warwick in the footwork Mugen.
Damon Hill driving, no doubt, with a new sense of peace and relaxation. He has a new Williams contract in his pocket for next year. Stay with us for more from Suzuka.
It wasn't normal to make a sports car with less weight and more power. But that's how we build the Mazda RX-7. Because there might be a few who'd like to know how a pure sports car feels.
Robert, all we need here is some oil and we'll be ready to crank. Okay. Jeff, get us suitcases. I have one.
Yes, sir, right away.
Robert, we're out. Get us suitcases and fly.
There's only one motor oil that Robert Yates Racing relies on for complete protection. Haviland Formula 3 from Texaco.
That was quick.
Yeah, they headed right down the street.
The same Haviland Formula 3 you can use in your car.
Get a free Burger King meal when you buy a case of Haviland Formula 3. But hurry, a deal this tasty can't last long.
A family grows. A boy dreams. One day, they'll be ready for college. Life insurance from the Farmers Insurance Group can help send them on their way. Because life insurance can protect your family now while you put money away that will grow for college later on. Farmers Life Insurance. For safety today and security tomorrow. Farmers Insurance Group. For life.
The Flyers. The Nordique. The shot! Eric Lindros travels to unfriendly territory as the Flyers take on the Nordique Tuesday on ESPN National Hockey Night.
Racing fans are bred starting from the very young here in Japan. 5.5 million people applied for a lottery to buy tickets to this race, and yet the newspapers would have you believe that racing is not as popular as it once was in Japan. According to the newspapers, soccer is the place to be for sponsors, and Japan may qualify for next year's World Cup tournament in the United States, which you'll see here on ESPN. Right now, this is a battle for 8th place. Ricardo Patrese in the Benetton, Martin Brundle in the new paint job on the Ligier just behind him, and then Eddie Irvine in Eddie Jordan's machine.
Martin Brundle came here with very sore ribs. He had a huge testing crash at Magny-Cours last week in the development Ligier car, so he is suffering and in pain as he drives this car. But Eddie Irvine is having a tremendous run here. These conditions may suit him a little bit more than everybody else here because he has done lots of miles in the rain. He needs to try and finish with that car because Eddie Jordan has no points, 0 points this year with those Hart V10 engine Jordan cars, although Barrichello, his teammate, is currently in 6th place.
There goes Aguri Suzuki. That speed indication is in kilometers per hour, so multiply times 0.6 to give you a rough idea of how quickly he's moving in miles per hour.
And we cannot do that quick enough for you, so you'll have to do that yourself.
Suzuki running in 13th place right now. But the darling of Fuji Television providing our pictures of this Japanese Grand Prix. Now back to the battle between Patrese, Brundle, and Irvine. Eddie Irvine, at 28 years of age, used to run in British Formula Ford. Ooh, he looks underneath Martin Brundle. He used to race against him in British Formula Ford, along with Mark Blundell and Damon Hill.
Unless you can get alongside Brundle, you don't need to poke your nose in too deep and lose one of those front wings. That will be the worst thing that could happen to Eddie Irvine. One of the minorities moves aside, lets the battle get on its way. But Patrese is pulled away just a little bit because Brundle is actually driving defensively, trying to hold off Eddie Irvine.
Appears to be Pierluigi Martini in the minority. The Scuderia Italia, as we mentioned, not here, so Michele Alboreto and Luca Badur did not try to qualify for this race. Oops, Tsukio Katayama appears to be giving up the ghost. Tough break for Tyrrell. Tyrrell has signed a deal with the former Fond Metal team to do aerodynamic investigations for them in Italy.
He had an interesting foot cam down inside the cockpit of that car, which we had hoped to be able to show you, but if we do get a chance, we may be able to show you that later on. It was quite fascinating. From earlier in the race, we did get some shots, but it's fascinating to see how quickly his left foot was working, particularly more so than his right, on that clutch pedal as he changed up and changed down. Remember, the Tyrrell does not have an automatic gearbox.
Whoa, Damon Hill is off. Now, I think this is, he went off, but this is a deliberate trip trying to skirt that gravel trap. Now he's back on the racetrack, and ooh, right there is Toshio Suzuki.
No, Damon, he had some... No, that was all the dirt. I think that was the dirt. Oh, look at this, look at this. Squeeze me, let me go. Damon Hill needs to stay out of the way of contact here. You can see under braking, all that dust and dirt and sand and gravel flew out of the Williams car that he collected going off the racetrack. But Damon Hill has had some very costly mistakes earlier this season that actually cost him race wins. Remember Imola, when he was leading earlier, locked his brakes at the end of the straight and flew straight off into the sand trap.
That was not a battle for position. Suzuki is a lap down to the field. And now Prost is off in the gravel.
Whoa, things are happening here. I wonder if there's something on the racetrack that we cannot see. But Alain Prost, who was 29 seconds behind Ayrton Senna, who was safely out in the lead. Now look at all the sand and gravel and stones coming out of the inside of Prost's car as he gets under braking. But he's half a minute behind Senna. and he's struggling to keep the Williams on the racetrack.
First indication of a drying line right there in that corner. But we have mixed conditions here at Suzuka. There you can see there's a large puddle. The track is a fairly good drainer. Now there's Ricardo Patrese looping, and he's not alone there.
Well, now you know that Martin Brundle and Eddie Irvine did make up those positions on Patrese, but there's something wrong, but it's all in that same section of racetrack. Here's a replay of Prost. He's under braking. Oh, literally goes in a bit too fast, locks the rears, runs out of racetrack. He's in the gravel trap. Luckily, that's wet from the rain because it doesn't suck him in. He can accelerate, drive through it, and luckily saved or hung on to that 6 points paying position. 6 points obviously being for second place.
And he did not take the pit entrance, so Alain Prost apparently satisfied that the car is in decent shape. Will stay on the racetrack, but he does lose more ground. Now there's one of the footwork cars off.
Can't see it. Suzuki. The local boys are not having a good day here. In one fell swoop, almost all the Japanese boys are out of this race.
The Toshiba you see there inscribed on the back wing of this car will apparently go away next year. We mentioned already that the Footwear Corporation must reduce its support, so Jackie Oliver's team is going to have to find some sponsorship for 1994 in a hurry.
And it's in the millions when you need to go out onto the street with your briefcase and your suit and tie. For Formula One, it's in the millions. They still are spending as much as $100 million to field 2 competitive cars to win the World Championship. 50 million goes to engines and 50 million goes to running the team.
That's an old number there, 29.5 seconds. It's more than that, separating Ayrton Senna from Alain Prost in first and second place at the Grand Prix of Japan, round 15 of the 1993 World Championship. Stay with us for more.
Over 1.5 million vacationers toured the canals of Venice last year. Not one of them, however, was a Lexus engineer. Why? Let's just say they were busy. The 1994 Lexus ES, improved, revised, refined. In a word,
Splitfire earned a United States patent. Splitfire doesn't look like any other spark plug. And the patented Splitfire doesn't work like any other spark plug.
5 extra horsepower by merely installing these plugs. Quicker in the quarter mile. A 4.8% gain in mileage.
There's nothing like a Splitfire. You'll get more power and more mileage, or your money back.
Get guaranteed Splitfire benefits for all gasoline engines at leading automotive stores nationwide.
The Big Bang. Some believe the sound can still be heard rumbling through space. Now, get ready for the Echo. Bo versus Holyfield in a rematch of one of the greatest fights ever. Bo owns the title. Holyfield wants it back. Repeat or revenge. Live from Caesar's Palace. Available only on pay-per-view. Call your local cable operator to order. Brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers.
Let's get ready to rumble! Back in Japan, well past halfway at the Grand Prix of Japan, Gerhard Berger brings in the Ferrari for another set of wet weather tires. These Goodyear rain tires with their heavy grooves are asymmetrical tread designs. In other words, each of the tires is distinctive of the other 3. It used to be they had 2 molds for fronts and rears. Now they have 4 molds because the fronts and rears left and right are all different from one another. There's Jean Alesi walking despondently around the Ferrari pits. Gerhard Berger is back out and having a little trouble coming up to speed there.
So he obviously thinks it's going to stay wet enough to warrant another stop for fresh, wet weather tires. He thinks that's going to be an advantage to him. You can see that the clouds are nowhere near as dark as they were earlier on.
Still have 20-odd laps to go in this race, so there is plenty of time for this track to dry out, which would mean another stop for slick tires for Gerhard Berger. The running order right now is Senna, Prost, Hakkinen, Hill, Warwick, Barrichello, and Martin Brundle. In 7th place, the last car on the lead lap. Under the overpass they come.
We mentioned earlier that you had the in-car camera inside the cockpit of Katayama's car. In fact, we can take a look at what went on with his feet and his gear changes. You can see this is, remember, in the wet. Jumps on the brakes. Now, remember, it was earlier on. He's out of the race now, but we thought it's worthwhile showing you. See how quickly he changes gear? Back on the throttle, and just flips the throttle with the side of his foot. Remember the old phrase, heel toe? It's actually ball of the foot, side of the foot, when you get a camera down in there and look at it. He uses his clutch, you can see, on the up change and down change, because remember, they have no automatic gearboxes on these Tyrrells.
Katayama is now out of the race, as is his teammate Andrea de Cesaris. I mentioned earlier that they have a deal with Fondmetal to do aerodynamic work in Japan. They do not have their own wind tunnel. The significance of that is that the man who will be doing the research, Jean-Claude Migeot of France, who teamed with Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite at Tyrrell to produce the revolutionary Tyrrell 19 a few years back. They will now be teamed up once again now that Dr. Postlethwaite has gone from Ferrari back to Team Tyrrell, and there may be good days ahead for Ken Tyrrell's squad.
So Berger is 9th, and Patrese, you can see him behind him there, is 10th. So this is an ongoing battle for position, but Patrese is about to get lapped by second placeman Alain Prost. So obviously you know that Senna has lapped everybody up to, I believe, 6th or 7th place.
There you see the sun coming back out. We're getting shadows around the cars. And that means that this track has the potential to dry, and we'll see another spate of pit stops for slick tires. The question then, who will make the judgment to stop first?
So Prost in his second last Grand Prix, he did say that Ron Dennis spoke to him about coming back out of retirement and taking over the #1 seat at McLaren. He said he has no regrets about making the decision. He will not unretire for a second time. He is happy with his decision to move away and do something else with the rest of his life.
A drawing line there on the racetrack. Looks like Damon Hill will go for fresh tires, and it looks like he will go for slicks.
So here's the gamble. He's the first man to take on slicks. So the sunshine that we just saw, Damon Hill thinks, will help dry out the racing line and make him very quickly, he hopes, the fastest man on the racetrack. But he's got to survive these opening laps and get those slick tires up to working temperature before he throws that thing off the racetrack again.
Third stop for Damon Hill. He made the wrong decision before. It remains to be seen if he's made the right one this time. Here comes the race leader, Ayrton Senna, just behind. And Senna, you can bet, will be watching Hill very closely. Because...
First thing he'll see is that he's on slicks. Berger comes back in, realizes he wants slicks also. Everybody will be in for slicks, so the track must be drying out very quickly. Senna will see that Damon Hill... We got a new nose cone on Berger's car, too. That's a strange thing to change. It didn't look as if he hit anybody. We didn't see any damage on it, but he decides he wants a new nose cone. But there's Senna behind Hill. He sees he's on slicks. He'll monitor how fast he is, and then he'll make a decision whether he will go to the pit lane sooner or later. And Eddie Irvine comes back up. No, it's Barrichello, I believe. It is Barrichello, who has just been lapped by Ayrton Senna. Barrichello, another Brazilian, running in 6th place, a points-paying position for Eddie Jordan. The line is drying. The light gray dry line is beginning to appear. Look at Senna. Woo!
Ooh, Senna attacked and then thought better of it. No doubt mindful of the fact that Damon Hill has those slick tires on and may not be able to stop as efficiently as he would with the treaded wet weather tires.
Great shots here. Look how active that active suspension is. Look at Barrichello sticking a nose down inside Senna. Senna's got to be careful here.
That looked like Martin Brundle and the Ligier they blew by.
Look at this. Barrichello down the inside. It's side by side with the two Brazilians. Senna lets him go. I will tell you, I would say Senna will make a decision to go to the pit lane very soon. He's still 28 seconds ahead of second place man Alain Prost, and he knows that he is also on wet weather tires.
Whoops, someone lost a tire and
on the wheel and everything else. So somebody's obviously made a pit stop. They didn't get this rear wheel tightened. I'm sure we'll get a shot of who it is.
I wonder why that cameraman wasn't poking around trying to make the exploration for us.
It's Eddie Irvine. Look at Eddie Irvine who clawed his way past. Oh, it's Brundle.
Martin Brundle. We saw him slowing down as the crew went by him. The right front not turning. Looks like he lost the left rear.
That's it. Left rear sits down, takes the right front off the ground, and he slides his way back to the pit stop, back to the pits. What a funky new paint job on that Ligier.
Looks like a camouflage print. Wouldn't want to visit the jungle he is trying to hide himself in. There goes the loose wheel.
Puts his arm up. I'll tell you what, that wheel could have done some very serious damage if it had been hit, I can almost say it, been hit by one of those cars of Senna or Eddie Irvine following behind.
Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. Look at the puddles.
Easy for you to say.
Now, Eddie Irvine really getting the bit between his teeth. He has unlapped himself again from the race leader. Word from the pits is that Gerhard Berger needed that new nose we saw being applied a little bit earlier because he had gone off the racetrack and damaged the front wing.
Eddie Irvine having a tremendous run here in that Sasol Jordan car. As again we look back from Damon Hill. Look at that twitch from Eddie Irvine. When you get to that damp conditions, is Irvine trying to... Oh, he did. He tried to slide down the inside and force the issue and past Damon Hill. Eddie Irvine showing everybody how good he is, and look what happens here. Wasn't able to accelerate out of the corner fast enough, and now it's a drag race, and Senna may go by.
Oh, keep in mind, this is in very treacherous conditions. Senna is the race leader now. Oh, Irvine almost ran up the back of Damon Hill. Now he'll go under him. What a battle being put up by Eddie Irvine from Northern Ireland.
Oh, they're going to touch. They're going to touch, almost touched. Eddie Irvine trying to make a statement about his talent and about how good he is. Almost destroys our cameraman and our audio and our pictures at the same time.
I'm sure our good friend John Watson, also from Northern Ireland and a Grand Prix winner in his own right, is absolutely pounding his bench, cheering for Eddie Irvine, his countryman, who is putting on an absolutely astonishing show here in Japan.
Now, the emotion of the moment can sometimes catch a rookie driver out. Senna gets by, but Eddie Irvine has to be very careful that he doesn't overstep his bounds here and make sure he keeps that Jordan car on the racetrack.
Eddie Irvine was the fastest man at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, driving for the Toyota factory back in June. Set the fastest lap of the race. No one topped him. He did it in the early going. And then after his Toyota sports car ran into mechanical problems, hauled it back to 4th place in the race. At that point, Eddie Jordan said, I started talking with Eddie Irvine about a drive in Formula One. Now he is out there, and he's certainly making the most of it, although he has gone a lap down to the leader, Ayrton Senna, and now Damon Hill may come under fire. Senna, Prost, Hakkinen, Warwick, Barrichello, and Hill.
Don't wait. Get the News Weekly of Motoring, Auto Week. Don't wait for driving impressions. Auto Week drives them all and tells you about them first. Don't wait for car news. Auto Week covers the world. Auto shows, the new, the old, and brings it to you fast. Don't wait for racing news. Get the News Weekly of Motoring. Auto Week brings you the winningest coverage first. Don't wait. Get Auto Week, the News Weekly of Motoring, now. Call 1-800-828-4100 for a full year. 52 issues at the special TV price of $19.95. Just 38 cents an issue. Save $80 off the cover price. You've thought about it. Stop waiting. Do it now. Call 1-800-828-4100 for the News Weekly of Motoring.
So you want to know about football? I'll tell you with no time to waste. NFL Prime Monday is the place. 90 minutes of X's and O's from Theismann, James, Jaworski, and the rest of our pros. We've got roundtables with sports writers galore and Chris Mortensen with the story behind the score. We'll have live reports from the Monday night game and backstage with Julie Brown. She'll entertain. No matter who you are, no matter what you know, NFL Prime Monday. Back to your show.
NFL Prime Monday, tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern, only on ESPN.
From high over the Suzuka International Grand Prix circuit, the car in the middle of your picture in red and white is the Marlboro McLaren of three-time world champion Ayrton Senna, a winner of this race back in 1988. There is the gap he holds over the second-place car of Alain Prost. Senna has gone around Damon Hill and put him a lap down. There you see Alain Prost, the world champion for 1993. And a man who will soon step out of the Williams-Renault for good. We are well past the halfway point, so it's time for our Suzuki motorcycle race recap. The leader, Ayrton Senna, if he can win this race for McLaren, McLaren will tie Ferrari at the top of the all-time win list among constructors in Formula One with 103 wins. He has led the last 16 laps. There you see the cars out of the race. Andre de Cesaris out very early, along with John Alesi. Michael Schumacher hit the back of Damon Hill's car and dropped out. Carl Wendlinger has pulled his Sauber aside, and Ukio Katayama, much to the disappointment of the Japanese crowd, followed shortly after by countryman Aguri Suzuki. Bob Barsha and Derek Daly, glad to have you with us. Derek Warwick in the red and white footwork, being chased by Alain Prost. It is Senna, Prost, Hakkinen. Warwick is in fourth position, followed by Rubens Barrichello. So very soon we will have just a couple of cars on the lead lap.
And you can still see how difficult it is to get good vision. That's inside Alain Prost's car from our in-car camera. His helmet visor is probably as bad as this, if not worse, because remember, the lens does clean itself on these in-car cameras. Here's the thing now. Alain Prost, in the space of the last 7 laps, has taken 15 seconds off Ayrton Senna's lead. It's now down to less than 13 seconds. He is closing hand over fist over Senna, and both cars are still on wet weather tires, and the track is drying dramatically. I think they will both be forced to stop to take on slick tires. You can see Derek Warwick is on slicks, but yet Alain Prost is still almost as fast. That's the difficulty in making the decision here. If he's faster than a car on slick tires, then he makes the decision that he stays on wet. And Prost does what Damon Hill did earlier on, goes around the outside of Warwick at the same corner.
Ricardo Patrese is in the Benetton pits, getting his set of slicks. I'm wondering whether Senna and perhaps Prost will try to go the distance on their wet weather tires. Certainly whatever Senna does will dictate for Prost. If he doesn't stop soon, he'll have virtually no chance of overtaking Senna, no matter how good his tires are.
When you see the cars on wet weather tires begin to look for the water patches, in other words, they change their line down the straight, trying to find the water to cool the tires down, then you know they're in deep trouble.
So Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna continue their minuet. Prost watching Senna to see if he'll stop. Senna perhaps content to stay out there on the wet tires. Now, word from the pits is that Prost may be stopping this time around. We'll have to wait and see.
If you think about it, Prost is second. If he doesn't think he can catch Senna on sheer speed on the racetrack, perhaps it is the right time to stop now. Get yourself onto slicks. He's in. Get yourself onto slicks and then go out and try and gain on Ayrton Senna. That's the gamble Prost may be about to take, and I wonder, will that be to the detriment of Ayrton Senna? Prost needs to get in and get out as quickly as possible.
Up goes the jack, on go the slick tires. Good, quick stop. A secure one. Well, not terribly quick by Formula One standards. You heard the traction control as the engine blatted under full revs. Now back out onto the racetrack. There's Warwick, there's Senna.
And now the gamble. Now we watch it. Does it pay off? Does Ayrton Senna now come in? and try and hold on to that 15 or 14-second lead. Now, that's what we spoke about earlier on. Mika Hakkinen comes in, Senna's teammate. But you can see Senna was hunting down the straight for the water. He knows his tires are getting too hot. He may be forced to stop.
Well, the important thing now will be how quickly Alain Prost and Mika Hakkinen make up time on dry tires. If they do it too quickly, you can bet Ayrton Senna will be in the pits. There is Senna. That is Damon Hill just behind him. Hill presently in 5th position. Stay with us. Great drama to come.
The Suzuki GSXRs. First, they win more road races than any production motorcycle in history. License plate on them. The new liquid cooled GSXRs, now available in 600, 750, and 1100 octane.
The new Toyo 800 Plus all-season touring radial is Toyo's finest tire, designed for superior driving comfort, a very quiet ride, and long tread life. The Toyo 800 Plus comes with an 80,000-mile warranty. Now, we've got to admit Michelin offers a similar warranty, and so does Bridgestone. 3 superb tires. So, what's the difference? See your nearby Toyo dealer, and he'll explain. Gladly. Toyo tires, driven to perform.
Nokia. You already know how to use it. Nokia. Connecting people.
They can't speak, but still, they can tell us a lot. At Lexus, we're using advanced crash dummies equipped with a dozen computerized sensors, all to learn more about what happens in an accident. We're rather proud of our dummies. The better the dummy, the better the car.
Pick up the phone for the latest sports news from ESPN all day, every day.
Back at the Grand Prix of Japan in Suzuka, Ayrton Senna, the race leader, is heading for the pits in the closing laps to switch from wet weather to dry weather tires. The sun is out after a heavy rain here at Suzuka. The track is drying quickly, and even though just a few laps remain, Ayrton Senna obviously decided he could not afford to stay out there on the wet weather tires.
Now, where is Prost? That's who we want to watch. How much time did he make up? He only had 1 lap, so I don't think he would have made up enough time, but we'll see him possibly in the top of the picture. Senna may have played the gamble properly, may have kept his lead. I think he did.
Well, it stands to reason he wouldn't come in unless he thought he had a shot. Now, there is Prost. He's just coming out of the pit straight, so he is well behind at this point.
Believe it or not, Prost, his gap now is up to 20 seconds. So Prost on that outlap on slick tires, he didn't like it. He lost 5 seconds on that outlap. So you can clearly see he doesn't like iffy conditions on slicks.
The order is Senna, Prost, Hakkinen, Damon Hill in 4th, Eddie Irvine in 5th, Rubens Barrichello in 6th. So Eddie Jordan has 2 cars in the points at this particular juncture, but he's had them there before and lost them. Recall it earlier this year as we approached half season. Eddie Jordan lost about $2 million in travel money by not scoring enough points in the last 2 half seasons. That's how these things are decided. In the last 2 half seasons, you must score. And under the new rules coming into effect next year, you must score in order to have voting privileges in matters of Formula One governance.
And, of course, the biggest disappointment, again, for Jordan was Donington. A superb drive by Barrichello, who was in 3rd place, ran out of fuel.
No doubt Irish Eddie will have his fingers crossed in the pits. Ayrton Senna with the traction control governing the way his Ford V8 hums down the straightaway. Senna says this car works better and better as the fuel load lightens. So right now, he's probably got a car that's about as good as he could expect it to be.
And this is the same car that they bolted the Lamborghini Chrysler V12 into the back of and took it to Silverstone. And Mika Hakkinen was 1.4 seconds as the Brazilian flags waved. He was 1.4 seconds quicker. Oh, the Ferrari is out. Berger's out. But he was 1.4 seconds quicker than they were in the Ford engine car. Chrysler thought they had a deal done with McLaren, and they were shocked and surprised to see Ron Dennis do his deal with the Peugeot for the V10 engine.
That looks like a fairly comprehensive engine meltdown for Gerhard Berger. We'll check back with the Grand Prix of Japan in just a moment after this quick timeout. Stay with us for more from Suzuka.
Do you add a tip when you pay your taxes? Use lots of stamps when you only need one? Well, your brand is probably on this table, next to mine. Both brands protect to 84 below zero. Boil-over protection? Identical. And both protect all metals. There is one important difference. Either this one costs about $1 more, or this one costs about $1 less. Peak. Maximum everything except the price.
Will we ever look forward to Mondays? What about mowing the lawn? Or going to the dentist? Will cleaning out the basement ever be a joy? Will doing the laundry ever be the highlight of our week? What about driving a station wagon? Will that ever be fun? Introducing the Volvo 850 Sports Wagon.
You protect yourself inside your car. Protect yourself under the hood, too.
Walmart helps you take care of your car and your budget.
Haviland Formula 3 provides complete engine protection. Or try Haviland Synthetic Motor Oil for better protection for the long run. Either way, you add more life to your car.
And because we always sell for less, Walmart's better protection, too.
Like a seatbelt for your wallet. Walmart. Always the low price. Always.
Back at Suzuka, Japan, there you see the gap from the first-place car of Ayrton Senna back to the second-place machine of Alain Prost, 24 seconds. Prost continues to lose ground on slick tires. There's Mika Hakkinen rocketing around in third position, 51.9 seconds behind team leader Ayrton Senna. Damon Hill a minute and a half behind Senna. Rubens Barrichello a minute 40 in fifth place. Derek Warwick has displaced Eddie Irvine, who is now out of the points for Eddie Jordan. As Derek Daly mentioned earlier, the Jordan team scored no points thus far this year. They scored no points last year until the final race of the year in Australia, where they picked up one. So Eddie Jordan would desperately like to score some points here in Japan today. Skies graying up once again, but 10 laps remain in the Grand Prix of Japan. We may be able to get it in before the rain falls again. There is the gap between third and fourth. Hakkinen back to Damon Hill.
And Mika Hakkinen said all of Finland is watching what he does, having had to sit out most of the season. But what he's doing is fairly good. Following in the footsteps of Keke Rosberg, the last Finnish world champion. In fact, Keke Rosberg and his company, they are the managers of Mika Hakkinen's Formula One or racing career.
Ayrton Senna on the point, looking for Team McLaren's 103rd Grand Prix victory to tie Ferrari at the head of that category for the constructors.
Another one of the star names that were mentioned this weekend as a possible teammate to Mika Hakkinen next year was Nelson Piquet. We do believe that to be a rather wild rumor, but that was one of the rumors this weekend that Piquet may make a return to Formula One. I don't think it's true. I think it is a wild rumor.
Well, Ron Dennis went for Alain Prost, which only makes sense. I suppose it's possible he might make a run at a man as accomplished as Nelson Piquet, a former world champion. There is Toshio Suzuki, still out there bombing around in his LaRousse. Suzuki at this point 2 laps down to race leader Ayrton Senna. 15 cars of the 24 starters remain in the race. There's J.J. Leto in the black and white Sauber just behind. Leto will be replaced in this team next year by German Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And no idea at this point where he will wind up. Would there be an all-finish lined up perhaps at McLaren?
I don't know, but J.J. Leto is unemployed at the moment. Those of you who are sports car fans may remember the name of Toshio Suzuki. He was one of the winning drivers at the Daytona 24-hour race in '92 when Nissan came over and won Daytona.
Riding aboard Mika Hakkinen's Lotus Ford. Next year will be a Lotus Peugeot with an all-new V10 engine from the French manufacturer.
Did all the normal things in Europe. Went to England to do the Formula 3 Championship, very successful. He won the Vauxhall Lotus Championship on his way to F1. And he really made a big name for himself very, very quickly in Formula 1 with the Lotus team as partner to Johnny Herbert.
Other names to keep in mind for next year. David Coulthard from Great Britain. Actually, a Scotsman, I believe, is David Coulthard. Jos Verstappen of the Netherlands tested the footwork and flashed around in a time that would have put him in the front half of the grid for the Portuguese Grand Prix. We'll have a couple of new teams in Formula One next year. Pacific Racing under Englishman Keith Wiggins and the Simtech Racing team. Bertrand Gachot is here in Japan this weekend. He will drive for Pacific. David Brabham of Australia, Jeff Brabham's brother. And another sports car ace in the legendary Brabham Racing family will drive for the new Simtech team. No second drivers announced yet for either of those teams.
Good to see new teams coming into Formula One. We know that Keith Wiggins did try to get his Pacific Formula One team off the ground last year, but decided not to. Runs a very successful Formula 3000 team. One of the reasons that Bertrand Gachot says this team will succeed is it is based on sound commercial footing, not on wealthy individuals.
There are the top 6. Senna, Prost, Hakkinen, Hill, Barrichello, and Derek Warwick. No change in the top 6. We'll take this quick time out and return to the Grand Prix of Japan.
The Suzuki Chitana 600, easily identified flying object.
For every week, there is a weekend. For every mortgage payment, there is a house you call home. For every diaper you change, there's a baby's smile. And for every trip to the dry cleaners, the in-laws, or the pediatrician, there is now the 850 Sportswagen from Volvo. Suddenly, being an adult might not be so bad after all.
Off the road, on the road. The Suzuki Dual Sport 350S. It's a vicious cycle.
Catch the Shooting Stars Saturday, October 30th on pay-per-view. Undefeated Michael Carbajal puts his IBF and WBC Light Flyweight Championship on the line against Domingo Sosa. Oscar De La Hoya continues his climb in the junior lightweight division. Plus, veteran Lupe Aquino squares off against Verno Phillips for the super welterweight crown. See it live on pay-per-view. Call your local cable operator.
Back at Suzuka, Japan, Riccardo Patrese, and perhaps his last visit to Japan for a Grand Prix race, was in 9th place and the defending champion in this race, but he has obviously just cannoned off the wall.
Very, very second-hand Benetton. The Japanese trying to make sure he's okay. He said, yeah, I'm cool. Just leave me alone. Let me catch my breath here. But destroyed the Benetton, took the left side off it, and that front wing. So Patrese, very hard contact with something.
Here's the Lotus Ford team running nose to tail. Pedro Lamy leading Johnny Herbert. Both of these drivers will be with the team next year. Alessandro Zanardi, Herbert's former partner who had that savage crash in Belgium, actually tested the car with the hopes of running this race, but the team decided he was not strong enough and his judgment was not good enough to race. So Zanardi is out, Lamy is in, and it will be Herbert and Lamy next year in the Lotus Mugen Honda team. Now, with that crash, both Benettons are now out, so McLaren will go by Benetton Ford. If the race were to end right now, McLaren would surpass Benetton Ford for second place behind Williams-Renault in the Constructors' World Championship. Michael Schumacher out of the race mathematically eliminates him from the chase for second place. If the race were to end now, Ayrton Senna would be within 2 points of Damon Hill for second place as we go to the final round of the championship in 2 weeks' time in Adelaide, Australia. Certainly the most magnificent street circuit I have ever seen, and one you will want to watch here on ESPN. 5 laps remain.
Rubens Barrichello, with 5 laps to go, is in the points-paying position for Eddie Jordan. So Jordan has his fingers and toes and ankles and everything crossed right now. It is so valuable to be a point scorer in Formula One, and Barrichello has been superb. You see, they obviously didn't get Patresi's car away, but Barrichello has been superb all year long. This weekend was the very first time this year that Barrichello has actually been out-qualified by a teammate.
Barrichello has been the only driver in this car all year long. He has had 5 teammates since the beginning of the year.
Barrichello is also a driver that was hotly tipped at one stage to be moving to Benetton. He denied that at the British Grand Prix, but the rumors are still gathering pace that Barrichello may be tempted to break his contract with Jordan or get bought out of his contract and move to Benetton.
A look out the back of one of the McLarens as we come into the closing laps of the Grand Prix of Japan. We'll have one more timeout and then look for a checkered flag.
When it comes to getting your Ford serviced, you don't want any surprises. That's why Interstate Ford in Metairie keeps the prices for the most common services listed on a menu over the service counter so you can see what the charges are up front, like a Motorcraft engine tune-up for as low as $39.95. Stop in at Interstate Ford, 3724 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. There are no surprises at Interstate Ford, where your car can be serviced right the first time. Quality care, where the quality continues.
Introducing the Cox Cable All-Star Team. The dedicated, hard-working employees who bring the exciting world of cable television to your home. The friendly service representatives and installers who guarantee timely appointments. The skilled technicians who guarantee a clear, trouble-free picture. And an overall guarantee of great entertainment and tremendous value.
At Cox Cable, we guarantee star quality.
So reach out and see what star quality can do.
Davis Love III has a good grip on things. 6 birdies, 1 eagle, just 1 bogey yesterday. A 7-under par 65. He goes for his second win of this year. Join our ESPN golf team later today for final round live coverage. We'll see you at 5.
Back at Suzuka, Ayrton Senna leads the Grand Prix of Japan as the laps begin to run down, but the battle is behind him as Derek Warwick, Eddie Irvine, and J.J. Leto run in 6, 7, and 8.
And it is a great battle right behind Ayrton Senna. Senna is clear. The fight is right behind him. Warwick is trying to hold off Eddie Irvine. It is a great fight.
And now we get a quick look at it. Our friends from Fuji Television obviously are more concerned with the McLaren of race leader Ayrton Senna, who is a lap clear of the battle for 6th place raging behind him.
Eddie Jordan will think that Christmas is coming early if he can get both cars into the points here in the second last race and then go to Australia and try and grab some more. Eddie Irvine knows he is so close to becoming one of the very few people in the history of Grand Prix racing to score points in their very first Grand Prix. The last man to do it was Jonah Lacey for the Tyrrell team at Paul Ricard in 1989.
Mika Hakkinen, looking for his first podium, runs in 3rd position. Ayrton Senna trying to bring McLaren even with Ferrari in the all-time winners standings in the Constructors' Championship. The line now fully dry. I suspect we'll have no more rain here today at Japan.
You can clearly hear the traction control. Where's Warwick? Where did Warwick and Eddie Irvine go? You can... Oh, there's Warwick. He disappeared. They've obviously made contact. Where's Eddie Irvine, though? Where is Eddie Irvine? Warwick got thrown out of Portugal by Ricardo Patrese when he hit him and in points-paying position late in the race. Now, Eddie Irvine does the same thing. Where's he going?
I think he may be going to find Eddie. No, he's headed for the wall. We don't see the Jordan just yet. And I don't see it anywhere in that wide shot.
Here it is here.
Here's
you
another
can see
look.
It. Eddie Irvine hits the back of Derek Warwick, keeps his car running, we think. He drove away. Yes, he did. He drove away, and Eddie Irvine drop kicks Derek Warwick and moves the Jordan car into 6th place. Barrichello is 5th. Eddie Irvine is 6th. Eddie Jordan will be bringing out the Guinness.
At the end of that Portuguese race, Derek Warwick went up to Ricardo Patrese, said he wanted to throttle him, but when he got there, Patrese had tears in his eyes and said, "I'm sorry, Derek, I am so sorry." Derek Warwick, one of the genuinely nice guys in Formula One, said, "You can't really get mad at a man like that, can you?" John Alesi, the last driver to finish his first race in the points back in 1989. It looks like Eddie Irvine, if I'm not jinxing him, will do it here today for his old Formula 3000 car owner, Eddie Jordan. Alain Prost. There are so many stories here in Japan. Alain Prost's last visit, it appears he will wind up his stellar Formula One career without ever winning here in Suzuka. 2 laps remain. There is the 3rd place car of Mika Hakkinen. Will he get his first podium today? Perhaps the future of Formula One as Alain Prost becomes Formula One's past? We'll find out. The checkered flag awaits here in Japan.
What do all these police officers have in common?
My name is Patrolman James New, and I was shot once Bob Parcell, and I was shot right above the heart.
Every year, more police officers are shot.
Point-blank range.
Yet fewer die, thanks to an innovative DuPont fiber called Kevlar in bullet-resistant vests.
Tina Dillard, and I was shot twice at close range.
Being a police officer is always going to be dangerous, but it doesn't have to be fatal. DuPont, better things for better living.
For every argument, there's a kiss that says you're sorry. For every hectic Monday morning, there's a lazy Sunday afternoon. For every late meeting at the office, there's a bedtime story to be read at home. And for every trip to the mall, the hardware store, or soccer practice, there is now the 850 sports wagon from Volvo. Suddenly, being an adult might not be so bad after all.
Back at Suzuka, Japan, in front of a packed house, 140,000 seated, many thousands more standing. Alain Prost of France runs in 2nd place. There is the race leader, Ayrton Senna, looking for his 4th victory of the year.
And you can see the sunshine. Oh, no! One of the Lotus cars, heavy impact. Lamy, Pedro Lamy is in deep trouble here. And the car is on fire. And the fire marshal had difficulty getting that fire extinguisher to operate. So Pedro Lamy, having had a good run, keeping ahead of Johnny Herbert, running in 12th place, limps away from his badly damaged and burning Lotus.
You saw him walk away with the steering wheel in his hand. That was partly the exigencies of having to get out of the car in a hurry, but I think he has also realized that that is one of the first souvenirs collected by spectators. Big hit for Lamy.
Look at the hit he took there.
Massive crash. Couldn't tell if he ran into someone else, perhaps his teammate Herbert, just launching off that corner and hard into the barriers.
And you can see Eddie Irvine did manage to keep running because that is him behind Ayrton Senna. Clear. We don't see any damage on the front wing from his contact with Derek Warwick. How disappointed Warwick must be as Ayrton Senna has the arrogance to wave to the Japanese crowd and does a full racing lap left. The last man I saw do that was Nigel Mansell in Canada, and he never made it round to see the checkered flag.
Those were prehistoric days in Formula One technology. However, the car stalled when the revs got too low. We've taken care of that in the laboratories that produce these incredibly sophisticated machines. The last win for Ayrton Senna this year, the Grand Prix of Monaco, that he has now won 6 times, I believe, surpassing the late Graham Hill, whose son Damon is in this race.
And we may have a bit of a personal battle here. Eddie Irvine is a lap down to Senna. He might want to get the lap back and officially finish on the same lap as the leader. He'll have to be careful if he tries to force that issue.
What's that line about pride going before a fall?
If I was Ayrton Senna and somebody was trying to sneak down the inside, I'd move over out of the way and let him go. Senna, with one hand on the wheel, is still able to hold off. Eddie Irvine, here he goes. Let him go. Let him go. He's on the same lap as the leader. He's on the same lap as the leader in his first Grand Prix, and he's going to score a point. But having passed Senna, he's got to do another 2.4 miles to get back.
3.64 miles, actually. Well, I'm sure you'd agree, Derek, that you have to take advantage of your opportunities if you're going anywhere in motor racing. For a couple of years now, Eddie Irvine has raced in Japan, out of sight of American and European racing eyes. Ayrton Senna takes the checkered flag, but Eddie Irvine will certainly be one of the headlines of this race. There is Alain Prost. He will come through in second, followed by Mika Hakkinen. We'll be back with more in a moment.
The Suzuki GSXRs. First, they win more road races than any production motorcycle in history. Then, we put a license plate on them. The new liquid-cooled GSXRs, now available in 600, 750, and 1100 octane.
Will we ever look forward to Mondays? What about mowing the lawn? Or going to the dentist? Will cleaning out the basement ever be a joy? Will doing the laundry ever be the highlight of our week? What about driving a station wagon? Will that ever be fun? Introducing the Volvo 850 Sports Wagon.
It's a round world, genuine and true. It keeps on spinning and you always come through. And you're giving it your best. Proud to be your bud. Budweiser. Proud to be your bud. Proud to be your bud. Ooh, yeah. Proud to be your bud. Proud to be your bud.
This ESPN Speed World presentation has been brought to you by Volvo. Volvo would like you to drive safely. And by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you, friends know when to say when. Back in Suzuka, Japan, there is your Suzuki Motorcycles race winner, Ayrton Senna, his 4th of the year, bringing McLaren International even with Ferrari with 103 all-time Grand Prix victories. Here's a look at our final results. Senna over Alain Prost, Mika Hakkinen's first podium, followed by Damon Hill, Rubens Barrichello, and Eddie Irvine.